Hi, I'm Jim McCarthy from drumclinic.com, and this is drumclinic.com's first blog. And the subject is German grip versus the French grip, or for those of you who might know it a little bit differently, the thumbs on the side versus the thumbs on top. This is a debate that's gone on for many, many years, actually much longer than most people imagine. It goes right back to early orchestral times, in the very, very beginning of the Romantic period, when the timpani were first invented. This French grip is sometimes referred to as the French timpani grip, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The real question is, which one is best for you? Which one should you do? And the answer is really not black and white. Each grip has some pluses and minuses. Let's look at the French grip first. It uses the hand rotated in such a way, or the forearm rotated in such a way, that the thumb sits on top of the stick. And this has a couple of very important advantages. First of all, users of this grip usually can play single strokes very, very quickly, and this is why it's really popular. In fact, it's no coincidence that just about every drummer that does really, really well in those World's Fastest Drummers competition use this French style grip. Bear in mind, of course, though, that those competitions require you to play single strokes at your maximum speed, and that's pretty much all you need to do for those competitions. And so, if that's what you want to do, this is definitely the grip for you. Okay, and the reason this grip is good for that is because the thumb sits on top of the stick and creates your fulcrum. As the stick's trying to bounce up off the drum, you've got an actual piece of your hand in position to stop it, and so that creates the rotation as the tip of the stick has momentum and wants to keep going upwards. Because you're using the position of the thumb to create the fulcrum, it doesn't require any tension to actually hold onto the stick or make that fulcrum happen. And that's fantastic for speed, because when you're using natural rebound and playing quickly, tension is your enemy. That's going to stop you. So all of the fingers can concentrate on driving the stick and creating the motion of the stick. So that's fantastic. The other thing that makes it really good is because it's very, very simple to create the fulcrum this way. It's not a complex fulcrum at all, which makes it very easy to make both hands identical. And that's a really important thing when you're trying to play single strokes and using natural rebound quickly, because basically the stick needs to be bouncing up and the timing of this needs to be perfect. And if your fulcrum is exactly the same on each hand, your hands are moving in exactly the same way, you've got a really good chance of making their movement even. So that's the main plus of that French grip. With the hands turned over in this German style grip, you do have a few problems with the tension that's required. Even when you're very, very relaxed, there's always some tension required to actually grip onto the stick. You can still do it. You still have the fulcrum between the thumb and the finger there, and you can still use the fingers to drive the stick, but essentially you've got some tension in there. The other thing is, of course, it's a much more complex fulcrum, so it's much harder to make them even. It takes a lot more training and a lot more effort to make those hands work in exactly the same way with this more complex German grip. So why would you use the German grip instead of the French grip? Well, the problem with the French grip is this. You've got your wrist in this position. Now, the wrist doesn't naturally hinge in this direction. You can do it, and you can see there's a limited angle of motion, and I can even feel my bones clanking around in there. It's not really good for it. The wrist is not designed to bend in that direction. It's designed to bend in this direction. And the German grip has the wrist in that natural hinging direction. So if we use the German grip, we can use our wrist A, much more effectively, and B, with much less risk of injury. And that's a really important thing when you're performing rudiments thousands and thousands of times, sometimes even in one practice session. It also means that we're isolating the muscle groups a lot more. We're using the small muscles of our fingers and forearms to move the stick with the fingers, but we've still got this arm motion and our wrist. So we've virtually got three separate systems of motion there: the arms, the wrists, and the fingers. And that's really important because it means we've got much, much more dynamic range, and because we're using different muscle groups, and this is the crucial point, we can do more than just play single strokes quickly. We can actually control the height of the stick quickly as well. With the thumb on top of the stick using the French grip, you can't really do that very well. You've got no wrist motion or control to do that with. And so that's the primary advantage of the German grip that if you want to do something more than just play really fast single strokes, if you want to have control with a range of different notes, then you're much better equipped to do so. And in the end analysis, I think this is a better thing because let's face it, the modern drummer, any really good musical drummer of today, needs to be able to do more than just play single strokes quickly. All right, it's a really important thing. You will often find that a lot of younger drummers or beginner drummers start off with this French style grip for the very reason that it is easier for them to get a good result quickly. It takes a bit of time to develop the fulcrum in the German grip properly and to develop it effectively so that you can get a good result. And so we often see people develop that French grip not because they've made a decision to do it for any particular informed reason, just because in the early stages it's much easier for them to get a fast result. Of course, a fast result is not always a better result. In my opinion, this German style grip is a lot more effort to learn and probably won't enable you to play single strokes quite as fast. Certainly without a lot of practice it's not as easy, but in terms of general playing, it's a much better grip. If you want to know a whole lot more about this German style grip and some really good tricks you can do to actually increase your speed and nullify the problems, then you might want to read my book Stick Technique, where I discuss it in depth. You can check that out at sticktechnique.com.